I know. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Beavercreek Parks, Recreation, and Culture Board meeting for February 11th, 2025. First thing I'd like to do is have a call to order and the roll call, please.
Candy Meyer,
Here.
Doug Getz,
Here.
Jennifer Conover.
Here.
Not in attendance tonight is Christina Heaton and Matt Schmidt.
Thank you. Next thing we need to do is approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Jen Conover, I motion to approve.
And a second?
Yeah, Doug gets second.
Thank you. I assume we're all in agreement. And then the approval for the December 2024 minutes.
I motion to approve.
Second.
All right, and that is passed as well. So we move on to the division report with Zach.
Okay, good evening. The division report tonight we broke up into two, so I'm going to share the first bit on financial strategy, and then Aaron's going to update everybody on our upcoming programs and events. So just wanted to share some updates with you all. At the work session back in the middle of January, I went to City Council and kind of laid out some history of our levies funding, as well as some where we're headed without additional funding, and we talked through some different levy options. And so I'll update you essentially what I provided them. So here on this slide, we have our park levy history. So the first ever park levy was passed in 2014, which was a 0.9 mil levy, and it was a 5-year term. And then 5 years later, in 2019, we passed a 0.9 mil renewal with a 0.3 mil increase and made that continuous. Since then, in 2023, we had a 1.93 mil levy that failed. That was for ongoing operations and capital, as well as the funding for Springhouse Park. And then last fall in 2024, we had a 0.49 mil levy that failed. With the 1.2 mil levy that we have that's continuous, its current effective millage with increased property values is 0.787, as you can see here. It generates just shy of $1.8 million a year, which is about 60% of the revenue of our division. And the annual cost to a resident of Beavercreek is $27.57 per 100,000 home valuation. So when you do the math of a median home price of like $307,000, it's about $82 a year is what the average homeowner is paying to fund the park levy fund. So because our levy failed last year, we are now in year 6 of our current funding. When we go out and we have these levies to go out, we kind of bank on a 5-year projection of expenditures, and every 5 years you're going to have to increase levy if you want to maintain current operations, because the cost of inflationary costs, personnel costs going up. That 5-year mark is kind of like the industry standard. So because we're in year 6, we're in our first year of deficit spending and budget reductions, and we've reduced $242,000 out of this year's budget, out of the 2025 budget, and that all came from capital expenditures. This year, all of our staffing levels remain the same, and our services and operational levels are currently remaining the same as they have in years past. And you can see here we've deferred capital of a playground replacement this year, ADA accessibility upgrades at CI Beaver Hall that we had projected, replacement of a couple mowers and a trailer. So that is some of the deferred capital that we've deferred this year in 2025. As we move forward, we gave City Council some options on what it looks like with no levy, with a 0.25 mil option, and with a 0.49 mil option, which was the same as we had last fall. Ultimately, at the end of the work session, City Council opted not to put a levy on the ballot this May. With the schools being on, with some of the results of the levy in the fall, we're taking a year back to kind of evaluate things as a whole for the city. And with that, if we opt not to put a parks levy on the ballot this fall, which they still have that option available to them, but if we opt not to do anything this year, 2026 would be year 7 of that levy. So what we would be looking at next year, and then kind of every year moving forward, is approximately $140,000 in additional cutting every year. So in 2026, it would eliminate the rest of our capital expenditures, and we'd also have to have a slight reduction in operations. In 2027, we would start, as you can see here, it keeps amplifying. We'd have to reduce and eliminate contract labor and overtime. We'd have a reduction in mowing frequency, landscape maintenance, and we would reduce or eliminate some of our community events. and we get out to 2028, which is even further out, you start reducing and eliminating more contract labor and overtime, reduction in seasonal staffing, further reduction in operations. You can see further reduction in community events. And we'd also have to start looking through the next couple of years too, increasing some of the fees and the cost recovery goals, because we wouldn't have the funding in order to keep maintaining that current level of service. When I break it down by area, or within our teams, our senior center is probably the least impacted because they receive half of their funding from the Greene County Council on Aging. So it costs approximately $600,000 to operate the senior center annually. We receive a little over $300,000 a year from the Greene County Council on Aging to help with the operations. And keep in mind too, we have about 160 volunteers that help with a lot of the essential functions of running the transportation and the front desk and a lot of those other functions. Most of the programs and events at the senior center meet or exceed the cost because of sponsorships and our cost recovery goals. So anytime we have a lot of the classes, like whether that be a yoga class or some of the events, we have sponsors or we're making money because of our cost recovery goals. But we'd have to look at other things like increasing fees for memberships, programs, transportation to help make up the difference. Again, if we're having to come up with $140,000 annually, we can look at it through two lenses. One, reducing expenses, but we could also look at it through the lens of increasing some of the revenue, and we have to look at fees. We'd also, one of the concerns I have with the senior center is every other year we receive a special grant from the Council on Aging of about $40,000 to replace a transportation van. The vans cost anywhere between $80,000 and $100,000 once they're upfit. So if we get the grant for $40,000 and we don't have the money to match, we may have to defer that grant if we don't have donations or something else to make up that difference. We'd also be looking at deferring a fitness equipment replacement and some of the ADA upgrades that are needed at that facility. When you look in recreation programs, again, most of our programs and classes meet or exceed their cost. And a lot of this you think of like the softball program and archery and any of the fitness classes, we're making money off of that. But we still potentially have to increase some of the fees to try to make a little bit more to make up that difference. But then some of the community events that we're not getting the sponsorship dollars for, or the ones that we're losing money on, we may have to look to reduce or eliminate some of those. And again, increasing fees and cost recovery goals. Our operations team might be the most impacted over the next couple of years because they're not generating revenue. We don't generate revenue by park user fees. We're not charging people to go walk around the pond at Lafino Park or play on a neighborhood playground. So they may be the most impacted, and it's where we may see a lot more of the impact, reducing some of the mowing operations and the landscaping and some of those playground replacements. We may not have the funding to necessarily do all of that. We would have to look over the next couple of years, reducing seasonal and part-time staff, and then again, deferring some of the capital projects into the future. Some other considerations, we get a $240,000 transfer every year from the general fund that has historically been for capital purchases. Obviously, if we're cutting our capital budget, we're still making the assumption and the general fund is in good health. So they're looking to make sure that we still get that $240,000 annually. But there could be potential need for the general fund to subsidize any sort of critical capital needs. If we have a catastrophic failure of a playground or a van or an HVAC unit, we may have the money in our parks levy to fund that. We may need to go to the general fund for some of those critical needs, as well as grant matches. Whenever we go out for grants, usually it requires some sort of match, 20%, 50%, something. If we don't have the capital funding within our budget, it could impact us of potentially applying for additional grants. As I talk through all this too, the other things we're considering is any sort of property tax that goes out. Remember, every 3 years, the county auditor sends out the triennial property reevaluations. Those are going out in fall of 2026. Preliminary thoughts are those are going to go up. Property values continue to rise in the area. We also have other city levies that are coming up on their 5th year. So in 2027, the streets levy will be in its 5th year. In 2028, the police levy will be in its 5th year. Also, we wanted to look at what else is going on in the community outside of the city. What will the schools be doing? They're on the ballot in May for a capital levy, but they'll have operational needs. And then what else could be out there, with the county, with the library, with the fire department? There are other needs. So when we look at the big picture of funding for the Beavercreek community, there's obviously the citizens have spoken when it comes to the property taxes are getting too high, and we've seen that in the ballot where people they've not been voting for them, and we hear that. So City Council is taking this all under advisement, and one of their priorities for this year is to really figure out the best funding strategy for this community moving forward. Because as you can see, Parks is in critical need of additional funding. We provide a lot of great services to this community, and I think we do so at very low expense. But you can also see there's need not just within parks, but it's streets, it's police, it's other government entities outside of the city. There are those needs. So that's City Council's, one of their priorities this year is to really get out in the community, hear from the residents, try to make informed voters out there to figure out the best strategy moving forward to fund the city. But I wanted to share with you an update from that work session that we will not be on the ballot this spring. I don't know about this fall. And I don't know what 2026 holds. That's still all to be determined. But I know to our residents, really, they just stay informed, watch our city council meetings, keep an eye on the city communications for opportunities to learn about city finances. On our city YouTube channel, there's a great town hall video from last summer that the city manager provided some really great frequently asked questions about city finances. And it was really informative. And it's about an hour, which I understand can be kind of lengthy, but it's really important, I think, for our community to watch to get a better understanding of how you can fund local government. So that's what I had on the financial strategy moving forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have before Aaron comes up here.
Will any of that be in the In Touch, showing people like, no, we're not putting a levy on in May, but here's what the future looks like, and we don't know when we will put one, but here's the impact of not passing one? Is that feasible?
Yeah, in the Spring In Touch that's hitting mailboxes, I believe later this week or next week, there is an article as it relates to a grant we received for Springhouse Park, and it does touch on some of the failed levies and the funding struggles within parks. But that's one of the strategies too that we're looking at as a whole with communications out to the community of getting that information out there of how our community is funded, and about property tax initiatives and income tax initiatives. And so that's one of the goals of the city and its council and our communications team of getting all that information out there. So through the In Touch, through social media, through email blasts, we're trying to get that information out there and getting a consistent message out there.
Will there be like a recap? Okay, so with the money we had from the last levy, we accomplished all of this without the levy, so there's like a comparison to see we did do a lot with the money that we had.
Yeah.
And now those things are going to go back, and the longer we wait, it's like kicking the can down the road. Now it's compounding, and so I don't know how, the best way to get it out. But I think as a citizen, I like to see what did we do, where did all my money go, and if you maybe don't have any kids or you haven't been to the parks, you're like, well, what do parks do? And so it'd be nice to see this 5-year or whatever, just a summary of what we did, so that we're not just saying, well, and then we're going to take all this away.
Yeah,
So.
no, that's great feedback. I think that's good for us to share some of what we've accomplished as well. I know Aaron and I have talked quite a bit about working on creating those. We'll have that deferred capital list, but also as it continues to grow, or that deferred maintenance and deferred capital list is going to continue growing, and having a strategy once we do get that additional funding, how we're going to get caught back up. So,
Right.
but I think great feedback on touching on some of our celebrations and our wins and what we've accomplished in the last 5 years with the park levies. So thank you.
Can you touch on some of the programming, or not programming, but some of the activities or different types of programs that you guys put on that could potentially be on the cutting board if you had to go towards not providing? So some of these not services so much, but events that you guys put on. What kind of events would they be that may not exist moving forward in the next couple years if we don't have the funds to do that?
Yeah, we don't have anything specific yet, and that's something as we get into the 26 budget season, we'll really tackle. But kind of what that could look like, some of the programs that aren't meeting our cost recovery goals and we're losing money on because maybe they're not getting the registrations that we typically have, or whatnot. We may look at cutting those. But really, it's a lot of the community events where, this is not so I'm not saying this is going to be cut, but look at summer concert series. That's 8 concerts. If we're not receiving the sponsorship dollars to cover the cost of that, we could look at reducing the number of concerts we have. Looking at 4th of July. The 4th of July, if we're not recouping 100% of the cost of it, do we look at reducing the size of our 4th of July program? Do we look at reducing our try-a-truck program because maybe we're not getting the sponsorship dollars? So a lot of it could be contingent upon getting those sponsorship dollars to cover the costs. Or it could be modifying the event to where it's maybe not as large, or we don't have the giveaways or the activities because we're not getting the sponsorships to cover it. Where it gets really tricky is not necessarily in 26 or 27. It gets into like 2028 when we have to look at cutting some staff. And when I kind of project out to there, I look at maybe like our interns. If we don't have the funding to hire our interns who run a lot of our summer events and our youth or our adult athletic leagues, could that potentially impact the adult softball leagues and the adult soccer leagues? Yeah, because we may not have the staffing to run those. And so even if some of the programming that meets the cost, we may not have the capacity because we don't have the staff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
ADA. ADA, I believe, is a federally mandated program.
Mhm.
Does that take priority over some of the other stuff?
Absolutely. So in 2020, we did an ADA transition plan. With that plan, there were, I want to say about 500 or so citations or suggestions for improvements. And we created a 10-year plan to come within compliance. And obviously, we've completed many of those, well over 100 of those. I don't have that exact figure in front of me. A lot of those were the low-hanging fruit that didn't necessarily cost a lot of money. It was adjusting either angles of a mirror or a grab bar height in a commode stall, adjusting some of the pressure of door closures. It's just more or less staff time. We're starting to, now that we're kind of 4 or 5 years into that plan, we're at the point where a lot of the projects are larger projects that do cost some significant capital. Sidewalk reconstructions because maybe the curb ramps are too steep, or we have sidewalks that are too pitched, or parking stalls that need to be leveled. Those cost significant money, and if we just don't simply have the funding, we're not going to be able to be in compliance. Because we have that plan and we've made strides towards it. I think obviously you can't. That whole plan is well over. It's close to $2 million to complete everything. We can't complete that in 1 year. It's going to take time, and we need funding to do it. We can still make progress towards some of the smaller cost items and making sure that everything that we've corrected, we stay in compliance, especially like accessible routes and making sure there's clearances and stuff. But when it comes to some of the bigger capital cost items, concrete work, asphalt work, moving walls, we just won't have the funding for it.
Could it be self-defeating then? Are there fines that would go along with that if we don't do those things?
Not necessarily.
Good. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Aaron, you're
Thanks,
up.
Zach.
All right, good evening. I'm going to share some upcoming projects and events and all the fun that we have going on. I want to remind everyone, I hear there might be some more winter weather in the forecast, and whether you're excited about that or not, it's going to happen if it's going to happen. So if we get some snow, build a snowman. Email it to our department. Sophia will be overjoyed to receive the emails of fun snowman photos and snow creation photos. You have until the end of February to get your photo in. And then we'll post all those photos on Facebook the first week of March. And people will get to vote by reacting to those photos. And the photo with the most reactions used to be called likes, but now there are multiple options. They win a prize basket full of goodies for their family to enjoy together. I wanted to highlight a few of the things going on because even myself, as I was looking at what's coming up in March, I was impressed by our team and all of the things that have been put together this spring. So just at the Senior Center in March, here are 4 different informational presentations or programs that are happening that I thought would be fun to highlight that I think people will be very interested in. Whether it's returning to spring fitness, this is things like making sure people as they get back outside and they usually become a little bit more active, do so in a healthy, safe way for their bodies. Improving your sleep. I know many of us could use help improving our sleep. Foods to fight chronic inflammation, and a senior scams presentation. These are all happening in March. These are all thanks to various partnerships and sponsors that we have with local businesses, local health networks, and those types of organizations. So we're so thankful for all of those partners, individuals, volunteers, sponsors who make all of these programs possible for our senior center members. In addition, we have a whole slew of new programs coming up. I was just highlighting things that are happening or starting in March. Some of these are for seniors only, some are for families, some are for adults or youth, and at all different times throughout the month. We have a Coffee 101 presentation coming up. This is open to everyone. That's in partnership with Contempo Roast. We did this at the Senior Center a few weeks ago, and it was a hit, so we're trying it again. If you want to sign up, I believe that's a Saturday morning that program will be. Our Brain Olympics class just started at the beginning of this year. This is a fun one. It's going to do lots of activities that seem silly, think minute to win it challenges, but actually you're doing a lot with engaging your brain and crossing the midline, getting your body involved. And we have art classes, introduction to watercolor. We have an inclusive yoga class, so very adaptable to all sorts of bodies and skill levels. Our family clay planter workshop, I'm excited about this one. Families can get together and decorate, paint a clay planter together to use this spring. And coming soon, a new Mommy and Me Yoga. And Mommy and Me Yoga will be open to any caregiver and little ones. So those are all new programs. Spring events coming up. Yes, we can talk about snowman and we can talk about spring in the same presentation. We are doing a new March event at the Senior Center. We are having an opening day celebration, celebrating Major League Baseball's opening day. So that will be very fun on March 27th. And then our Soar into Spring, an annual event that will be back in April on April 26th out at Dominic Lafino Park. This is geared towards anyone is welcome, but it's definitely geared towards families. Spring athletics, it's not too early to sign up. We have adult softball registration and adult soccer registration open. We have multiple youth sports for preschoolers and up through elementary school age. So our Amazing Athletes offers a multi-sport program for ages 3 to 6. That'll be kicking off in April. And our partnership with Skyhawk Sports Academy, we have a mini golf program. That's a new one this year. Volleyball, tennis, flag football, t-ball, and soccer all happening. So depending on the program you sign up for, some of those are for preschoolers and others go up through age 12. And our summer camps, these create all the buzz. Everyone gets excited about what summer camp opportunities are out there for their children this summer. Our traditional summer day camp, which is usually what people are referring to when they ask, when is summer camp registration opening? The registration opens March 17th. We do have the information live on our registration site already. So you can go in there and preview what weeks are available, what themes, what field trips, all that kind of fun stuff. Those are all-day programs. You can sign up on a week-by-week basis. We will be offering 9 weeks of summer day camp this summer, which is one additional week than we've offered the past several summers. And then we have a variety of specialty camps. This list is not exclusive. We will continue working with our partners to put more and more out there for the community as everyone's schedules kind of fall into place. But we use our partnerships with all sorts of organizations and our contracted instructors to offer specialty camps. Some ones to highlight this year are the Beavercreek Clay Courts Tennis Club. They're going to be offering a tennis camp for kids this year. Our partnership with Extreme Quest Sports up at the Gym Quest location on Kemp Road, they'll be offering sports camps and cheer camps. And of course, our partners with Skyhawk Sports and Amazing Athletes will offer camp opportunities as well. So some of these are all week camps, some of these are partial week, some are full day, some are half day, just kind of depends. So go and check out those on our website. We are hiring. We need people to help us take care of the parks and put on all these fun programs this summer. So if you know somebody who's interested in seasonal maintenance and internships in summer camp, please tell them to apply right away because we are interviewing already. And then we do have an open house coming up, date to be determined. This will be for Springhouse Park for the Phase 1 developments at Springhouse Park and asking for the public to get engaged make sure their voices are heard and what they would like that phase to look like. It's important that we make sure we're getting the input now for what phase 1 development starts to look like, so that we have a cohesive design as we continue to develop the park, as we continue to get funding to do so. So we will report back when we have a date scheduled. Any questions or concerns?
The Spring House Park, I know you don't have a date, but do you have like is it spring, summer, fall?
Oh, yes, yes. Likely March.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Anything else?
Maybe early April.
Okay.
Spring break is in there. It's kind of,
Well, that's true.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions? All right, thanks, Erin.
Thank you.
Moving on, we will go to old business, and on that we have volunteer recognition event. Did we settle on a final date?
That is something we need to decide tonight. I know when we had met at our last work session, we had talked about Thursday, April 24th, I believe, but that also conflicts, we didn't realize at the time, with an event that the Tree Advisory Board has going on with Southern Ohio Brewing. They're doing an Our Beer Day program with Southern Ohio Brewing. So we had checked with the golf course, and looked at some additional dates. I know April 23rd was available. That's a Wednesday. And wanted to check with you all to see if that date works well, and we can solidify that date and nail it down and confirm everything with the golf course.
So April 23rd is a Wednesday, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much agreed in email, except for.
I can't do the 23rd, but that does not mean that if that works for everybody. I would just have to be there later on. Yeah, unfortunately.
So we just need to find out from Matt and Christina.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that the
so-
only other date? Was the 23rd?
We can certainly look at other date options. Our other backup was not good on the staff side.
Fair enough.
So if we can coordinate that in email over the next couple of days and solidify that date,
Okay.
and then we will finalize through email and the next work session, and we can even chat a little bit after this meeting about some of the details, trying to
Okay.
lock down the caterer and some of the format for the evening, some of the giveaways and the thank yous and all of that. So, but we definitely want to get that date secured here within the next. I'd say that by the end of the week, and then we need to work on getting a save the date out to those
Yeah.
volunteers.
Okay, thank you. And the other old business would be the park rules update. You sent out an email, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to review it. Are we going to sit at some time and go through that? I'm sure we're not doing it right now.
Yeah, and I put this on the agenda just so we can kind of lay out the format and the procedure, how we're going to update these. So when you look at those, you'll notice that a lot of the park rules haven't been touched since 1992. There were a couple that have been updated here and there. So what I would like you all to do is between now and the work session in March, review that, make some notes or comments of rules that may need to be updated or changed, or new rules that could be added. Our staff will do the same practice. We'll have our teams review these as well. Once we get all of those consolidated and kind of put back together as one, we will then send like an edited version of those park rules out for an update. And once we feel comfortable with that, we will share with legal to make sure. We also have, besides park staff, we also have police and planning and zoning and engineering. Some of the other teams review certain sections of the park rules that are applicable to them. We'll have legal review it, and then from there, once we get the okay from legal, we'll take it to a city council work session, review it with city council, and then it has to go through an ordinance reading, because this is an ordinance, so it's 3 readings at a city council meeting. So ideally, this is probably like the ordinance is probably like sometime end of Q2, like May, June time frame. So we've got some time, but if you all could review the park rules, make any comments, and then know that also there'll be an opportunity again to review them once we have some of those changes.
So we'll have that ready for our March work session.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. New business, sponsorship opportunities.
We have refreshed our sponsorship packet for 2025 with all of our slate of events, as well as opportunities to partner with us on summer camp activities, on program scholarships, as well as senior center programs and events and transportation sponsorships and scholarships. So we're really excited. We're rolling that out to the community. We're reaching back out to our previous sponsors and trying to find new groups that want to connect with the community. Of course, we think that we're great to partner with and a great way to connect with your local community. We can get people, in front of the faces of the families that are out at events and the people that are engaged with their community as well. So we will share out with Park Board the website and the packet that we have put together. And we also have everything live on our website at beavercreekohio.gov/sponsorships. So
All right.
we're excited about that.
Great, thanks. And the Spring House Park Phase 1, Zach, you have anything updated on that?
Yeah, and Aaron touched a little bit on this about the upcoming open house, but just to kind of update you all where we're at in that we've been working with our consultant, Branstetter Carroll, on the Phase 1 design work. So Phase 1 is the northeast corner at Grange Hall and Patterson Road, kind of across from Jeffries. In that Phase 1 area, the amenities include a large playground, a splash pad, outdoor fitness, parking lot, as well as a shelter and restroom. The budget for all of Phase 1 is about $4.5 million. We received a $1 million grant from the state of Ohio through House Bill 2, the one-time strategic investment fund. So we did not have to provide any match for that. So that's $1 million that came to us that we can start using as seed money for development. We're using a portion of that money for the design work for all of Phase 1 because any design, any construction we have within that area, we want to make sure that it's going, which is going to be a playground and a parking lot for right now. We want to make sure they're going in the correct locations, but we also want to scope out the utility sizing that will be needed. We want to make sure that we're not putting a playground where we need to install a water line and we'd have to incur future costs increase because we put something in the wrong location. So we're doing the design work for that entire area, and we're also getting community feedback about some of what do the color themes look like? What do the facade of the building, what does it look like? What style of playground do you want and splash pad do you want? Which will also, like Aaron said, will be cohesive amongst the other park amenities in the future. So it's a very important first phase. The design work is being funded from that grant. And then we will start some construction of Phase 1 later this year, which will be an entrance drive and a sign, a parking lot, and a playground. It won't be the full playground, but we'll be able to start building a good-sized playground. And then we'll have the ability to add on to that in the future. So again, we will start some construction, and I'll clarify that none of that funding is out of the general fund, out of the park levy fund. 100% of that is grant funded. So while in one hand we say we've reduced capital, we don't have the funding within our park levy, this is a completely separate pool of money to fund Springhouse Park. And so that will be an important message that we want to make sure we're getting out to the community so they have a good understanding of where we're getting that funding. But also understanding that the development that we're doing and the construction that we're going to have, we've taken into careful consideration of the operational impact that it has on our team. So a playground and a parking lot has significantly less maintenance needs than a splash pad and restroom buildings and those things. So we want to be mindful of the impact it would have on our team while best utilizing that $1 million we received from the state. So there'll be the meeting that we have, the open house we have in March and April. We're also looking to do a survey for those who aren't going to be available to be at the open house. We will share that out with Park Board for review and then kind of lean on you all to help kind of get the message out there in the community to get public feedback, because it'll be crucial that we get a good consensus of what this community wants Springhouse Park to look like, because some of the decisions we make in the design will carry out into the future.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We have no unscheduled visitors, action items, volunteer opportunities. Erin?
It's still a little slow in terms of outdoor events, but they are coming. One opportunity to tag on to what Zach was just sharing about the open house is it will be great once we have a date for that if we can have Park Board engage with people and help us get feedback from the public on that, as well as spreading the word about the survey. We already had up there save the date for April 26th for Soarin' to Spring. There will be opportunities that come with that.
What are the times for that again?
Soarin' to Spring is from 11 to 1.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. some of those invites for fun community engagement events are starting to come in slowly. So Beaver Creek Schools has already shared out their Family Fun Day will be on Sunday, May 4th. So that's always something that we've enjoyed having park boards help in staffing our table and booth out at that fun event. It's always a great time. And I want to put a plug in for, any groups that are looking for volunteer opportunities as spring starts to come. We'll be looking for help, with park cleanups, with starting to mulch playgrounds, and groups that are interested in kind of getting their hands a little bit dirty and helping out in the parks as everyone starts to get back outside as the weather turns. It will happen soon. So,
Okay, thank you. And board time, Doug? Anything to say or add?
You want me to go first, huh?
Sure. I mean, you don't have to say anything.
That's a rare opportunity for me not to say anything, right? So I asked the question earlier, how long had we been doing this? And it appears we're right at the cusp of a year, all right? So I have to say thank you for the opportunity to serve. This has been an amazing experience. I've had the opportunity to see what's going on, to learn what's going on to a much greater depth and detail, much greater granularity for all of the work that you guys do, which is absolutely amazing considering the size of the staff and considering the size of the board there. So I got to emphasize what the Parks, Rec, and Culture Division has done. I've been thinking maintenance, the concerts that go on, the programs that go on, the events that go on, the transportation, the senior citizen. If you haven't experienced these, you really need to look and see all of the activities that are taking place here, supported by the Parks, Rec, and Culture Division. And the involvement for this group. I didn't know what they did. I had no idea what this group did, but I felt the call to service there. And to see the involvement of the Parks Board supported by the dedicated, conscientious volunteers, really important to this community. So I encourage folks to get involved. So my encouragement is if you use the parks or the activities supported by the Parks, Rec, and Cultural Board, I encourage you not only to enjoy the opportunities that are out there, but just as importantly, from a number of different aspects, you got to support them. So my encouragement to the community, support what the community does, all right? Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Jen?
Yeah, I second a lot of what Doug said. I joined almost a year ago because I have a young child and I wanted to get more involved and do things that were kind of up her alley. As at the time 5-year-old going into kindergarten soon. And if we were going to be going to a lot of these events, I might as well volunteer my time and be able to have her experience that as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what else I'm going to be able to help with different activities and whatnot and be able to be a part of. I'm really looking forward to being able to get to know more of the volunteers that have put so much of their time into a lot of the events that go on here in Beavercreek. And, I know we have hundreds of volunteers that we are so grateful for, of all ages, that provide so much of their time to be able to get a lot of the activities and events going. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then, of course, being able to put more of my time out there. And looking forward to figuring out other ways to engage with the community to get a more information out there and solid information so they understand where their money's going and how impactful the Parks Division really is in terms of putting out incredible events and programming for all ages. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next couple months look like.
Great, thanks, Jen. All I have to say is thanks for the reports and highly recommend people get on the website, see where all the parks are. I think everybody knows about Shout Park and Rotary Park and the ones that they go to. Look for those obscure ones because there are playgrounds there too. So I would like to encourage people to see what else we have when we talk about replacing playgrounds. I'm not sure everybody's actually seeing and envisioning how many playgrounds we have. And so get on the website, see where those parks are, and explore someplace new. And that's all I have. Thanks. So with that, if we have nothing else, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second?
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.